So let me say, first of all, to each and every one of you, thank you for being here today for the launch of the Higher Detroit campaign. It's critically important for our city. Mr. Mayor, thank you for giving us the challenge to re-engineer and reinvent employment, workforce employment and development of our talent here in the city a couple years ago. I'd like to invite Secretaries Perez and Duncan to come up, and we're going to have a little Q&A. The biographies of our panelists today are stellar. They're in your book. Just let me take a moment to say that Arne Duncan is the 9th Secretary of Education of the United States. Next month will be his 5th year in service. In the Obama administration, he supported significant reforms in public education. Formerly CEO of the Chicago Public Schools, 6 years with the Ariel Education Foundation, Harvard undergrad, magna cum laude graduate, co-captain of the Crimson basketball team, and first team academic All-American, and most important, a husband and father of two children who go to public schools in Arlington, Virginia. So, Mr. Secretary, we appreciate your public service.
Thank you.
Secretary Perez is the 26th Secretary of Labor of the United States. He was confirmed just in July of this year, formerly with the Civil Rights Division of the United States Justice Department, where he led a number of initiatives over the years on hate crimes, equal housing, fair lending, education, and most important, employment opportunities, preceded by his leadership roles in the state of Maryland, and the county level as well, and former professor of law at the University of Maryland School of Law and George Washington School of Public Health, an undergraduate of Brown University, Master's of Public Policy from Harvard's Kennedy School, and Juris Doctorate from Harvard Law, husband and father of 3. So before I get into the specific questions, let me ask both of you if you have some general comments you would like to share with our audience today.
We're both pointing at each other. I'll be very quick. I want to look forward to the conversation. Tom and I are just thrilled to be here, and we want to be good partners. We know how hard the work is. We know how important the work is, and whatever we can do to help you get where you need to go faster, bring this city back as quick as we can, we're in it for the long haul.
I only know you as Aaron's father, so I'm really excited to meet you. But now I can call you David, I guess.
Yes, you can.
I love traveling with Arne, and having us both together illustrates that learning is lifelong. It starts from when you're born till when the Lord calls you home. And that's what we're in this for. And we all understand that we need to take people where they are in their lives, work with them. I'm so excited to see so many people in this room. I grew up in Buffalo, New York. We have many similarities, wonderful towns along a wonderful set of lakes. We've had a few challenges over the years, but what we have in common and why I come here today, and I know Arne comes here today with remarkable optimism, is that there's such a spirit of stick-to-itiveness that is this city. And that spirit is what will carry us through. And I am confident that we will be able to tackle these challenges. And that's why we're here. That's why other cabinet secretaries have been here earlier. And that's why this isn't just a one-shot deal, because we're so invested in the future of this city and the success of the businesses here and the success of the residents here. So it's great to be here. My favorite part of your logo behind me is the H, because we are going to build ladders of opportunity together for everybody.
That's great. And the Aaron to whom the Secretary refers is my son, Aaron, who had the pleasure of serving in the U.S. Justice Department and is now on assignment in Los Angeles with the U.S. Attorney's Office there. And there's no better feeling for a parent than to be known by his child. So let me first say that we salute the two of you for your dedication and commitment to public service. But let's talk a little bit now about the subject that brings us here together, the Hire Detroit campaign, which we're committed to seeing as a success. And certainly Detroiters understand public-private workship partnerships, leveraging resources, and creating sustainable programs. What are the features, from your point of view, of a successful partnership in this workforce development area?
Well, you have to have a big table, and you have a big table here in Detroit. And Pam, wherever you went to sit down, I commend you for your leadership. And you have to have a good board. You have to make sure you're not fighting yesterday's battles and using yesterday's models. All too frequently, yesterday's models in the workforce field were what I used to call the train and pray model. You know, we train people to learn how to be a widget maker, and we never ask during that process, is anyone hiring widget makers? The key to today's model is that we are industry driven. Everything that we're doing here, and Southeastern Michigan has gotten $40 million in grants, and these are competitive grants to help to upskill. And the key to those grants is partnership. Mm-hmm. And the partnership between employers who are in this room, between local workforce investment boards, community colleges, other institutions of higher learning, key nonprofit players, key leaders in the business community. That's what success is about. I've seen it across the country. I see all the building blocks of success here in Michigan, and I think we can continue to move forward because that philosophy, the demand-driven approach, so you're training people for jobs that exist, and jobs do exist here. Anyone who tells you that manufacturing is dead hasn't been to Southeastern Michigan, hasn't been to all the communities that I've seen across this country where manufacturing is thriving. We need to get that message out. There are employers in this room, I'm confident, who are hiring right now, and we want to make sure that Detroiters get those jobs.
Right, great.
In all this stuff, I always try and think, what can we do individually better to be self-critical? And when we look at what employers are trying to hire and the skills of the employees coming their way, there's a big mismatch. And I look at us in the education space, and I think we have to be fairly self-critical when we look in the mirror. Yes, we need employers to partner, but I can't tell you how many CEOs I've met with, Tom's met with, the president's met with, as recently this morning, CEOs who say they are trying to hire right now, and they can't find folks with the skills they need in these tough economic times. So whether it's in elementary, whether it's middle school, whether it's high school, whether it's community colleges, we have to figure out how we're preparing students to be successful in the advanced manufacturing world, in the IT world, in the retail world, in the healthcare world, all the areas where you guys are showing the growth. And I think we have to take that responsibility much more seriously. Yes, we need the employer guidance. Yes, we need their partnership. They need to help shape curriculum. But we just can't look at the employers and say, you're not hiring. We have to look in the mirror and say, we have to do a much better job of giving people the skills, not of 30 years ago, but of tomorrow.
Right, right. So important. There's a recent grant announcement, actually, that sort of touches on this topic, called the Youth Career Connect. It's generated a lot of buzz here in Detroit. Can you say more about this grant opportunity and how it might work in Detroit and other communities?
So I'll start on that one and maybe kick it to Tom to talk about the TA grants, because that's Youth Career Connect is $100 million, which is big money. He is also $500 million. But the basic idea is to have more high schools thinking about this transition from school to the place of work. And they're fantastic models in Chicago, one here in Detroit. P-Tech in New York is a wonderful model where young people are going to high school. They're basically graduating from high school, many with their associate's degree done. So 2 years of college paid for free, and they're giving preference to go into the world of work in those communities. And it sounds like common sense. It happens far too rarely, and what we're trying to do is to scale what works. And so this would be $100 million. Applications are out. Applications are due back at the end of January, January 27th, so you have 6 weeks or so. But I would strongly, strongly encourage this community to think about how you can help redesign high schools to prepare young folks for the jobs they're going. If I could, I'd kick it to Tom to talk about the TA stuff as well.
You know, one of the things that I remember the most, and just last week I was in Chicago visiting one of the schools that Arne's talking about, and what you need to know about these schools is that their admissions are done by lottery. They're not creaming, which is really important. And we sat there in the classroom where they're learning all these STEM skills. And everyone I'm asking, I was there with Mayor Emanuel and others, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? And by the way, these are 90% were kids of color. What do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a rocket scientist. I want to be a doctor. I mean, they were aiming high, and they're going to get high because they have so much access to opportunity in those programs, and that's what excites me. I hate the word GT. You know, I think every child is gifted and talented, and it's incumbent on us to unleash those gifts and talents through investments and through the leadership that Arne has shown. And one of the other ways in which we unleash investments for adults is through a 4-year investment. Our acronym department has a lot to be desired, but we have this thing called the TAC program, Trade Adjustment Assistance to Community Colleges. In other words, it's an upskilling initiative. It reflects the fact that there are many employers who are bullish about this future, who want to hire tomorrow, but we need to make sure that people have the skills to compete. And over the last 3 years, we've invested $1.5 billion, and the Department of Education has been remarkably helpful in enabling us to figure out, you know, how to best do this and what do we learn from our prior experiences. So again, this is a wonderful partnership. And we have $500 million more. Round 4 is going to go out next February. And the keys to success, and Henry Ford has gotten a grant, and then the 9 college consortium, we were out visiting one earlier this morning, got a $25 million grant. The key is partnership. And the key is making sure businesses are at the table, making sure that all the key stakeholders I described earlier are at the table, so that we have a demand-driven program that leads people to the attainment of skills that are what we call stackable. So you get a certificate today and maybe an associate's degree tomorrow and maybe a 4-year degree down the road. Because people get on and off the education superhighway, and we want to make sure that they have those opportunities. So there's 2 immediate opportunities, and I really encourage you to take advantage of them.
Excellent. You know, for older workers, lower literacy and numeracy issues prevail. What can you tell us about some of the programs that exist to address the needs of our citizens who are older but have those deficiencies?
Sure, and the beauty of our workforce system, I think, is that we have the capacity to meet people where they are. We can't have simply a one-size-fits-all program. So, and by the way, one of the other things that I love about our system is that 2 of the best thinkers in the country are here today. We have Eric Sells now from our office, Brenda Dan Messier from Arne's office. Eric used to be in the local workforce system with me back in Maryland, and we did a lot of work on behalf of adults who had low literacy. We did a lot of work on behalf of ex-offenders. We have 2 grants right now in the city of Detroit addressing challenges confronting ex-offenders in the workplace. I will tell you the most prolific employer of ex-offenders in the state of Maryland is Hopkins Hospital. Johns Hopkins, a world-class institution. And yes, some of them are working in entry-level fields. Some of them are phlebotomists. My family and my faith teaches me that people deserve a second chance. And through a lot of our Workforce Investment Act investments, we can address the skill deficits and give people those opportunities and then connect them to jobs.
Right. So one other thing that is particularly important in this part of the country where there's been a strong manufacturing base and a long history are apprenticeship programs preparing young workers for the 21st century manufacturing jobs. Could you tell us a bit about the plans to lift up the apprenticeship programs in this area?
Well, I'll start and kick it to Tom, but two things. Again, going back to the high school redesign piece, high schools can't do this by themselves. They have to do it in partnership with industry. And having real career ladders, having apprenticeships, having opportunities for young people to get on-the-job, real-world experience is the best way to excite them about what's out there going forward. And so again, building on existing models here, building on existing models in other places in the country. Obviously, other countries, Germany being maybe the top of the list, have done a much better job of this systemically, removed any stigmas, and actually made this a very attractive opportunity. I think there are fantastic examples out there, and we hope with these additional resources that folks here in Detroit can think about making this much more the norm rather than the exception. The one challenge I would push to the business community is there are so many students, despite all the very real challenges here, who are overcoming those challenges every single day, getting to school, getting good grades, working hard. There's never enough opportunity and recognition for them, and finding ways to help those students get a summer job, work on the weekends, work a couple days a week after school, I think can be a life-transforming opportunity, and too often those kinds of chances to see the larger world out there don't exist, and taking care of those 10th and 11th and 12th graders on a more systemic basis, I think could be something this community could think about together.
Excellent, excellent. One other topic that I have on the list to talk about is the adoption of the Common Core standards, arguably making high school graduation more difficult for our young people. Do you think that it's likely that to result that there'll be higher dropout rates as a result of this Common Core?
I absolutely reject that kind of thinking. And let me be really, really clear. The vast majority of people who drop out of high school don't drop out because it's too hard. They drop out because it's too easy and they're bored. And anytime we raise standards, students rise to that. Now, we can't just raise standards without providing additional support. We haven't talked about early childhood education. We have to work all the way up from our babies on up. But the dropout rate in this town and the dropout rate across the country is unacceptable. And when young people drop out today, they're basically condemned to poverty and social failure. So having high standards, making sure young people graduate from high school truly college and career ready, both and, not either or, giving them all the supports and help they need to hit that higher bar, working with teachers on how they teach to these higher standards, talking to parents about what's required. But I challenge you, anyone who thinks that reducing standards, dumbing things down is going to lead Detroit or the country where we need to go, I would argue they're part of the problem rather than part of the solution.
Okay, appreciate that response. So we are in Detroit infused with the Being spirit, and of course that means that we want to be on the all-star team. And so can you identify a couple of communities or a couple of situations around the country where we can have some role models who are on the all-star team, and as far as education, as far as workforce development, so that we can continue to keep our sights high, our goals lofty, and our accomplishments at that level as well?
Well, I think you have opportunities right here in our backyard. I mean, we went to one this morning. President Jacobs at Macomb Community College, he's been in the business for 40 years. He has done a remarkable job of building a program in which employers are engaged. It is demand-driven. They take people where they are in their lives. They have students who are coming right out of high school. They have students who were veterans. We met one this morning who's transitioning from being an air traffic controller to now getting into advanced manufacturing. And the thing that I remember the most about this morning is talking to students who said, I'm going to be done soon, or the other student who said, I was done and I had 3 job offers at the end. So there are models right here in the backyard, and what you're building here and have built in your workforce organization is, again, you have the building blocks of success. And I hope that employers here will continue to invest in Detroiters, because I really think you have a talent pool that can succeed, and I hope you will take advantage of the workforce system, because we are here to help you address needs that will enable you to hire. I was in Chicago last week, and we talked to some employers, and they were trying to grow their business, and there was a licensing issue that was preventing them from hiring people. And the local workforce intermediary there, it was $300 to take the course and then pass the test. And that was the main barrier. And we were able to provide that assistance. And I met literally dozens of people who've been hired in recent weeks and are now making good wages. So there are models here. There are models all over the country, and it's great that it's so close here. But I really encourage you to stay involved. And I really want to underscore what Arne said before about giving people experiential learning opportunities. We hear a lot about the hard skills, and those hard skills are important. We saw the program this morning. I hate the term soft skills. Soft skills are anything but soft. They're the essential skills. And people get the essential skills when when employers in the room give them that chance to understand what it means. 8 o'clock is not 8-ish. You show up at 8. And giving people that opportunity is so critically important. So you've got models right here in the backyard. You've got wonderful employers in this room. And I continue to be optimistic for your success.
Okay, Secretary Duncan?
On the education side, I think that's the advantage a place like Detroit has is there's never one perfect model you should replicate, but there are lots of places where you can steal bits and pieces and adapt them to what makes sense. Here, I think the lofty goals you talked about are hugely important, but I also think focus is really important. And there are so many challenges here. You could go in so many different directions and sort of sequencing which battles you take on first. But in terms of school systems, and particularly K-12 systems, the city where Tom and I work now, Washington, is actually a pretty interesting example of a school system that was very dysfunctional not too many years ago. And it still has a long way to go, but on the recent NAEP results, which is benchmarking everyone across the country, DC actually had a faster rate of growth than any state in the nation. It's absolutely remarkable. Again, long way to go, not there yet, but they're improving faster than any other state in the country. And they have been relentlessly focused the past couple years on a couple things, some of which are hard, but are clearly paying big dividends. They've invested very heavily in early childhood education, and so we're making sure our babies are entering kindergarten ready to be successful. They've focused a lot on talent identification, identifying great teachers, great principals, better supporting them, paying them in different ways, and that can be controversial, not everyone agrees, but really rewarding great teachers and great principals. And they've focused a lot on this transition to higher standards. In fact, they're a couple years ahead in that transition. They've done some other things. They have a mixed delivery system like Detroit here, charters and traditional schools. And I'm just for good schools regardless of what they are. Good schools are part of the solution, bad schools are part of the problem. But they have focused and done hard work in a couple areas, and this one example has led to faster improvement than any other state in the nation. So that's one interesting example to look at. Not the perfect example, but an interesting one.
Appreciate that. And particularly, if I'm not mistaken, DC is primarily public schools. They've got a mixed model, but charter schools are in the minority there in terms of percentage of students that are educated. In Detroit, we just heard that 51% of the students in Detroit are going to charter schools. And as you say, it doesn't matter whether it's public or charter, it's just good schools. Yeah. And any particular comment on the mix in DC?
So I think, again, the percentage is much less interesting to me. Their percentage is actually pretty similar to 50-50. It's probably a little bit more traditional schools than charter. But what they have done on both sides is they have relentlessly tried to drive improvements. And so they've replicated successful schools, be they charter or traditional district, and they have taken a very tough line with schools where the vast majority of children weren't being successful. And I talk all the time about dropout factories where 40, 50, 60% of kids are dropping out, where the school systems themselves are part of the problem and part of why kids aren't having a chance to be successful. And so on both sides of the equation, the charter side and the traditional side, the quality has gone up over time, and that's why collectively things are definitely going in the right direction.
So while we're on the topic of education, let's move beyond high school education and talk about college. Where do we stand in terms of President Obama's goal of college completion of highest proportion of college graduates in the world? How are we making progress on that?
So first, the goal is by 2020 to lead the world in college graduation rates. One generation ago, we did lead the world. What's so interesting to me, we're now 12th, so 11 other countries have passed us by. And it's not so much that we've dropped, it's that we have stagnated, and other countries are out educating us and out innovating us. So we are making some progress, but we are going to have to improve faster to hit that goal. And again, for me, it starts with You got to look at the whole chain. So early childhood ed, we've talked some about, but reducing those high school dropout rates, 25% across the country. It's 1 million young kids leaving our schools for our streets each year. They have no chance to be successful. Increasing high school graduation rates, making sure those high school graduates are truly college and career ready, and then having them take that next step. And so we are making some progress, but have to continue to get better faster.
That's great.
You know, one of the keys to moving forward in this regard is to recognize that, first of all, again, learning is lifelong. And you know, my mother started college the same year I started college. And so I learned that, you know, firsthand. But understanding the jobs of tomorrow, you know, depending on what study you read, something like 50 to 70% of the jobs over the next 10 years are going to be middle skill jobs. So as we aspire to have kids who are moving up the higher ed ladder, it's important to recognize, and we look at where we are now here in Detroit, that we've got to, that's why the community college system is so critically important. That's why our TAC program is investing there, because they are middle class, they are these middle skill producers for tomorrow, and they have a remarkable alacrity in responding to employer needs, very deft. And it may not be that you get the 4-year degree in 4 years, but you start out, you get that associate's degree. I know in my neck of the woods, community colleges are getting so much more popular for fiscal reasons, among other things. First of all, for quality reasons, and then you get out of there with a 2-year degree, and then you can transfer to another school and save a lot of money. But it's important to understand that at a minimum, we need to make sure that people are prepared for these middle skill jobs, which require more than a high school degree. And there's too many people who aren't even there yet. So we're going to keep pushing.
Okay, we got about 2 minutes to go. Is there one question out there that comes from the audience? How about this gentleman right here?
Mr. Duncan, I heard you talking about education. We're in the United Way. We're partners with United Way to turn around schools. My biggest concern is, how do I get the employers to be more or less judgmental to a student that I get inside of their business? Because sometimes when I ask my Cody kids or my Henry Ford kids or certain other schools to hire in and take in the high school students, they be like, well, I don't know. They may not have the skill set yet to do it. But we make deals with them that saying we're going to give you quality kids. And so how can I get the employers to partner up with us just to say, okay, look, we'll take in 10 of your students, hire them in, and bring in a better job. But then how do I educate the teachers? Because sometimes the teachers are standoffish.
Okay, we got about 1 minute for your answer to that question.
I don't have a 1-minute answer. That's a much longer question. So again, I have to look at us in education, challenge ourselves, and be self-critical. So I think for employers to take huge risk on young people that aren't ready, yes, we would like them to do that. That's a hard ask for us to make. I think it's incumbent upon us in education, in the nonprofit community, to make sure our kids are ready. And those skills that aren't so soft that Tom talked about, those essential skills. We can teach this. I spent a lot of time doing this work on the south side of Chicago. Our young children can learn these skills, but they have to be taught that. And I think we in education, we in schools, we in nonprofits have to do those things. And again, some teachers may buy in, not buy in. Every school has great teachers. Every school has great kids. And so starting with sort of the folks who are already committed to the cause, not trying to get everybody, but you go to any school here in Detroit or across the country, you can find enough teachers who are going to be with you to try and help kids who, you know, this is a mission, this is not a job. Start with them, start with a coalition of the willing, and then build from that base.
Great. Secretary Perez?
No, I totally agree with Arne. He's said it all.
Okay. So what I would say is part of the challenge that we have in this community is to change the culture. And part of the culture change that we have, and it's not unique just to Detroit, is that in order to rebuild our cities and rebuild our communities, we need to go from a presumption of unreadiness to a presumption of being part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I think you should tell those employers that you're in contact with that ask them to undertake that cultural change, because in the end, it's going to be to the betterment of our community. Let me thank our secretaries for being with us. Their incredibly busy schedules allow them to be here today. Thank you so much.